They told us the Mirage closing was a one-time thing, a fluke, the natural end of an aging property, nothing to worry about. Then the Tropicana fell, 34 years of history, bulldozed, turned into a parking lot waiting for a stadium that might never come. And now I can see the dominoes lined up. I can see exactly which ones are wobbling. 5 casinos. 5 names you know. 5 properties you've probably walked through, gambled in, maybe even stayed at. 5 buildings that might not survive what's coming. This isn't speculation. This isn't rumor. This isn't some anonymous source whispering in a parking garage. This is math. Debt loads that would make your accountant cry. Occupancy rates that tell a story management doesn't want told. The cold, hard numbers that executives discuss behind closed doors and pray you never see. I've seen them, and today I'm sharing them with you. I'm naming names in this video. No blind items. No a certain property on the South Strip. No legal department approved vague language. Real casinos, real problems, real deadlines. We're starting with a tower you can see from the highway and ending with a property that's being destroyed so blatantly, so publicly, it should be criminal. If you're new here, I expose what's really happening in Las Vegas. No casino PR fluff, no tourism board propaganda, just the truth they hope you're too distracted to notice. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, because this list is just the beginning and the next video is going to name names that will genuinely shock you. But before we get to number 1, I need you to understand something. These 5 casinos aren't failing for the same reason. Some are being neglected to death, starved of maintenance until they crumble. Some are drowning in debt they never should have taken on. Some are victims of geography that no amount of marketing can fix. And one of them is being sacrificed on purpose, deliberately destroyed so the land beneath it can be sold. Let's start the countdown. Number 5, the Strat. You know this building, even if you've never set foot inside, you know it. That needle piercing the desert sky, the observation deck, the thrill rides that dangle tourists over the edge, 1,000 feet above the strip. It's a landmark, a meeting point. Turn left at the big tower. But here's my question. When's the last time you actually walked inside? When's the last time you sat down at a blackjack table there, grabbed dinner, spent a night in one of those rooms? When's the last time anyone did? The Strat has a fatal flaw, and it's one that no renovation, no rebrand, no marketing campaign can ever fix. Geography. Look at a map. The Strat sits at the dead end of Las Vegas Boulevard, the North Strip, that forgotten stretch where the tourist foot traffic dies and the real Vegas begins. Down south, you've got the Bellagio, the Venetian, Caesars, the whole gravitational center of the Strip pulling people in. Up north, you've got the Strat, alone, stranded, an island with a really tall antenna. In Las Vegas, convenience isn't just a feature, it's oxygen. Tourists don't make deliberate choices. They drift, they wander, they follow the crowd. And the crowd never wanders north. Here's the brutal truth. The owners know this. They've known it for years. They've seen the same foot traffic data I have. So why haven't they sold? Why haven't they cut their losses and walked away? Because they're not playing the game you think they're playing. The Strat owns something more valuable than the casino itself. Land. Acres and acres of it, stretching out behind that tower like a desert kingdom waiting to be claimed. That parking lot you drive past, that empty stretch of asphalt baking in the sun, that's not wasted space. That's the real asset. The people running the Strat aren't in the casino business anymore. They're in the land speculation business. They're running a holding pattern, keeping the lights on just enough to maintain the property's value, waiting for the North Strip to gentrify. Waiting for some developer to announce a project that makes their dirt worth double. And until that day comes, minimum investment, maximum extraction, let the carpets wear thin, let the rooms get dated, let the reviews slide. The building is depreciating, but the land beneath it, that's appreciating every single year. The Strat isn't dying from bad luck, it isn't dying from bad management. It's being kept on life support, maintained just enough to function, just enough to generate cash while the owners wait for the real payday, the land deal that makes everything else irrelevant. But here's the thing about life support. Eventually, someone pulls the plug. Number 4 is different. Number 4 sits in a prime location. Number 4 just got a $2 billion renovation. Number 4 was supposed to be a resurrection story. Instead, it's becoming a cautionary tale about what happens when you pour money into a building that the city has already forgotten. The Sahara is next, and its story might be the saddest one on this list. Number 4 is a resurrection story. At least, that's what they told us. That's what the press releases said. That's what the billboards promised when they unveiled the new logo. A legend reborn, history restored, the Sahara rises again. But here's the thing about resurrection stories. Sometimes, when you bring something back from the dead, all you create is a more expensive corpse. The Sahara, Las Vegas. If you know Vegas history, real Vegas history, this name hits different. This is Rat Pack territory. Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., the kind of old school glamour that Hollywood spent decades trying to recreate. The Sahara opened in 1952. Think about that. 73 years of history. 73 years of stories soaked into those walls. Elvis performed here. The Beatles stayed here. This wasn't just a casino. This was a time capsule, a living museum of everything Vegas used to be. Then in 2011, the lights went dark. The doors closed. The slot machines went silent. Everyone assumed the Sahara was finished. Another victim of the recession. Another piece of history bulldozed for progress. But then, something unexpected happened. New owners swooped in. They gutted the building, spent $2 billion on renovations, changed the name to SLS Vegas, then changed it back to Sahara when that didn't work. In 2019, the grand reopening finally arrived. The press was glowing, the promise was simple, the legend returns. That was 6 years ago. I walked that casino floor last month, spent a whole evening there, watched, listened, counted, and I need to tell you what I saw. Because it's not what the press releases promised. It's not what the marketing photos show. It's something much, much sadder. Walk through the Sahara on a Saturday night. Not a Tuesday. Not some random slow weeknight. Saturday. Peak Vegas. When every casino on the strip should be buzzing. Now count the players at the tables. Go ahead. It won't take long. Count the bodies at the slots. Listen to the silence between the jingles. That dead air that hangs in a casino when there aren't enough people to fill it. This is not a thriving property. This is a beautifully renovated ghost town. The restaurants that were supposed to anchor the experience, half of them never opened. The others are running skeleton schedules. Closed Mondays, closed Tuesdays, limited hours due to staffing. The rooms are being discounted, heavily, the kind of rates that scream desperation. $59 on a Saturday in peak season. That's not a deal. That's a distress signal. Here's what the Sahara's Instagram account doesn't mention. The ownership group, Meruelo Gaming, is sitting on a mountain of debt from that renovation. $2 billion doesn't fall from the sky. It comes with interest payments. It comes with covenants, those little clauses buried in loan documents that say hit these revenue targets or else. It comes with lenders who don't care about history. They care about returns. When the casino floor is empty and the rooms are selling for motel prices, those payments don't get easier. They become a noose. Every month, the debt service is due. Every month, the gap between what they owe and what they earn gets wider. Every month, the math gets more impossible. I've talked to people who work there, off the record. Conversations that happened away from the property, away from management's ears. The morale is cratering. Staff cuts are coming. The kind of cuts that guests notice fewer dealers, longer waits, services quietly disappearing. And there's a rumor, one that nobody wants to confirm on the record. Ownership is shopping for a buyer. Not publicly, not with a press release, but quietly, discreetly. Testing the waters to see if anyone wants to take this beautiful bleeding property off their hands. So far, no takers. The cruelest part of the Sahara's story? It's actually a nice property now. The rooms are genuinely good. The renovation work is quality. Someone poured real money, real effort, real craftsmanship into trying to bring this legend back to life. But you can't buy foot traffic. You can't manufacture buzz. You can't force tourists to walk past a dozen flashier options just to visit a name their grandparents remember. And you absolutely cannot service $2 billion in debt when your casino floor echoes. The Sahara died once before, went dark in 2011, and everyone mourned. Now it might be dying again, slower this time, quieter, bleeding out behind a fresh coat of paint. But number three doesn't have the excuse of a bad location. Number 3 is being strangled by something far more sinister, a debt structure so predatory, it was designed to fail. Welcome to the Rio, where someone else's gamble is about to come due. 5 more Vegas casinos that could close next. Section 3, #3 Rio All Suite Hotel and Casino. Clean teleprompter script. Number 3 isn't on the strip. That single fact, 5 words, explains almost everything about why it's dying. But the location is just the wound. What's killing this property is something far more complicated. A debt structure so aggressive, so desperate, it turned a renovation into a ticking time bomb. The Rio All Suite Hotel and Casino. If you're a poker player, stop what you're doing. This name is sacred ground. For nearly 2 decades, this was the home of the World Series of Poker. Every summer, the greatest card players on earth walked these hallways. Phil Hellmuth, Doyle Brunson, Daniel Negreanu, legends. The Rio wasn't just hosting a tournament, it was hosting history. Every year, millions of dollars changing hands. Careers made and destroyed over the turn of a card. But it wasn't just poker, the Rio had soul. Remember the Carnival World Buffet? $50 all-you-can-eat that was actually worth $50? The carving stations, the international food sections, the dessert spread that looked like an art installation. Remember the Masquerade Village? That indoor streetscape with the Show in the Sky parade, floats drifting overhead while you gambled below? Remember Voodoo Lounge on the rooftop? That view of the Strip at night. The wind in your hair, feeling like Vegas was yours. This property had personality, it had texture, it had moments that stuck with you long after you went home. Then Caesars decided to squeeze. For years, they milked the Rio dry, deferred maintenance, closed amenities, let the property rot while they focused on their Strip flagships. And in 2019, they sold it. But here's what should make your stomach turn. The people who bought it didn't buy the Rio to save it, they bought it to gamble with someone else's money. And that gamble is about to come due. In 2022, the World Series of Poker packed up and left. Moved to the Strip, to Paris and Horseshoe, closer to the action, closer to the tourists, closer to everything the Rio couldn't offer anymore. When those poker players walked out the door, they took the soul of the building with them. The summer that used to bring tens of thousands of gamblers, gone. The prestige that made the Rio a destination, evaporated. The famous buffet, closed. The shows, canceled. The Voodoo Lounge, shuttered. Walk through the Rio today and you can feel the absence. It's not just quiet, it's hollow. The ghost of what used to be haunting every empty corridor. Now let me explain how the new owners plan to fix this. Dreamscape Companies bought the Rio and immediately launched renovations. Fresh paint, new carpets, updated rooms, a genuine effort to wash away years of Caesars' neglect. But renovations cost money, and in a high interest rate economy, money is expensive. So Dreamscape did something desperate. They took on a $176 million C-PACE loan. For those who don't know financial structures, let me translate. C-PACE stands for Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy. It's a government-backed financing tool that places a lien directly on the property itself. This isn't a normal loan you negotiate with a bank. This is debt that gets repaid through property taxes, debt that the government helps enforce, debt that doesn't care if your casino is profitable. Think of it as a second mortgage, on steroids, with the IRS as your collections agent. To service that $176 million loan, the Rio needs consistent, predictable cash flow. To generate cash flow, they need customers. To get customers, they have 2 options, tourists or locals. Tourists? The Rio is a 15-minute drive from the Strip, separated by the I-15 highway. In a city built on convenience, that's a death sentence. Nobody accidentally wanders into the Rio. You have to choose to go there. And tourists don't make that choice. So that leaves locals, the people who actually live here. But here's the impossible math. Locals have long memories. They remember the Caesars years, the dirty rooms, the broken slot machines, the elevators that smelled like regret, the property that a billion-dollar corporation left to rot because they simply didn't care. You don't erase that memory with new carpets. You don't fix that betrayal with a fresh coat of paint. Trust, once broken, is more expensive to rebuild than any renovation. And right now, the Rio is trying to buy back trust it destroyed over a decade with borrowed money, while paying interest on $176 million. That's not a business plan, that's a prayer. The Rio is trapped. too far from the strip to attract tourists, too damaged to win back locals, and every single month, that C-paced loan gets hungrier. The interest compounds, the pressure builds. If Dreamscape can't pull off a miracle, and I mean a genuine defy-the-odds miracle, that $176 million loan transforms from a lifeline into a noose. Bankruptcy isn't just possible here, it's becoming mathematical. But if the Rio makes you angry, wait until you see number 2. Because number 2 isn't some off-strip orphan fighting geography. Number 2 sits on the corner of Tropicana and Las Vegas Boulevard. Prime real estate, 30 million tourists walking past every year. And it's being bled dry anyway. Not by accident, not by bad luck, by design. The Excalibur is next. And what MGM is doing to that castle should be criminal. 5 more Vegas casinos that could close next. Section 4, #2 Excalibur. Clean teleprompter script. Number 2 sits on some of the most valuable real estate in Las Vegas. Corner of Tropicana and Las Vegas Boulevard, the South Strip. 30 million tourists walking past every single year. You couldn't ask for a better location if you tried. And yet, what's happening inside those walls isn't neglect. It's a crime scene. The Excalibur. When those towers rose from the desert in 1990, this wasn't just another casino, it was a declaration. Las Vegas could be family friendly, Vegas could be magical, Vegas could be a place where kids tug their parents' sleeves and beg to stay in the castle. Those Technicolor turrets, bright purple and red against the desert sky. The drawbridge entrance that made you feel like you were crossing into another world. 4,000 rooms, the largest hotel on the planet when it opened. A medieval fantasy built for the working class. Remember the Tournament of Kings? Dinner theater where you ate with your hands while knights jousted on horseback. Kids went absolutely insane for it. Remember the arcade that never seemed to end? The carnival games on the second floor? The sense that this place was built for families, real families, not just high rollers pretending to be? Excalibur was proof that you didn't need a trust fund to experience Vegas magic. You just needed a minivan and a sense of adventure. For millions of Americans, this castle was the gateway drug, the first taste of Las Vegas, the memory that made them come back year after year, chasing that feeling. That was 35 years ago. Walk through those doors today, I dare you. Because what you're about to experience isn't a castle, it's a carcass wearing a crown. Step into the Excalibur lobby in 2025. The first thing that hits you isn't the medieval theming, it's the smell. That signature cocktail of industrial cleaner failing to mask decades of cigarette smoke. Carpets that have absorbed more spilled drinks and human desperation than any fabric should be asked to hold. A mustiness that crawls into your nostrils and sets up camp. This isn't old Vegas charm, this is decomposition. Take the elevator to your room. If you can get one that works, they're overcrowded. Painfully slow. Sometimes just broken, with handwritten out-of-order signs taped to the doors like confession notes. The hallways stretch forever. Dim lighting hiding stains that bright lights would reveal. That industrial carpet pattern chosen specifically because it doesn't show dirt. Smart design choice when you've given up on cleaning. Open your room door. Welcome to 1995. The furniture is chipped, not vintage, not retro chic. Just old and damaged and never replaced. The bathroom fixtures have yellowed with age, that specific nicotine amber that takes decades to develop. The air conditioning unit rattles like a dying animal. The blackout curtains don't quite block the light. The mattress has a permanent valley in the center from 10,000 bodies that came before you. And for this experience, this time capsule of neglect, you're still paying resort fees. $45 a day for the privilege of existing in a building that MGM has abandoned. Here's what makes me furious. This isn't neglect born from poverty. MGM Resorts is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. They're renovating the Bellagio. They're building new properties. They're spending hundreds of millions on their flagship casinos. The Excalibur gets nothing. And that's not an accident, that's a strategy. Let me explain what MGM is doing, because once you understand it, you'll never look at this castle the same way. Excalibur is what the industry calls a cash cow in terminal harvest. The strategy is simple: keep room rates artificially low. Lure in budget travelers, families who don't read reviews, international tourists who book through a third-party site and don't know any better. Get them through the door, then bleed them. Resort fees, parking fees, Overpriced food because you're too exhausted to walk somewhere else. Drinks marked up 300%. Nickel and dime them from check-in to checkout. The capital expenditure, the money for real renovations, for fixing what's broken, for making this place worthy of that castle facade has been essentially zero for years. Why invest in a building you're planning to kill? Because that's the end game, and MGM isn't hiding it. They don't see a castle when they look at Excalibur. They see dirt. 30 acres of prime Las Vegas Strip real estate, corner lot, pedestrian bridges connecting to Luxor and New York, New York, infrastructure already in place. The building itself is a liability. It's old, it's dated, it requires maintenance that cuts into margins. But the land beneath it? That land appreciates every single year. That land is worth more empty than occupied. So they wait. They let the building decay. They extract every possible dollar while the structure depreciates. And they watch the land value climb. The day the maintenance costs exceed the revenue, and that day is coming faster than you think the bulldozers arrive. Excalibur isn't a resort anymore. It's a placeholder, a building marking time until the math makes sense. A castle waiting for its own execution while tourists wander the halls, wondering why their vacation feels so sad. The families that made memories here, the kids who thought they were sleeping in a real castle, the parents who couldn't afford the Bellagio but wanted to give their children something magical. They were never guests to MGM. They were resources to be extracted, one resort fee at a time. But even Excalibur's slow-motion murder looks dignified compared to number 1, because number 1 isn't corporate negligence dressed in spreadsheets. Number 1 is a billionaire actively destroying a Vegas icon, letting it rot in real time, watching the reviews crater and not caring, because he's not selling rooms, he's waiting to sell dirt. Circus Circus is next, and what Phil Ruffin is doing to that property should make you sick. Number 1, I saved this for last because it's not just a casino on a list. It's a verdict on what Las Vegas has become, on what we've allowed to happen, on what happens when a billionaire decides your childhood memories are worth less than the dirt beneath them. This is personal, for me, for anyone who grew up believing Vegas could be magic. Circus, Circus. Close your eyes for a second. If you're over 40, you remember. The big top entrance, walking through those doors and hearing the carnival sounds wash over you, the trapeze artists swinging overhead while your parents played slots below, the smell of popcorn and possibility. This wasn't just a casino, this was a rite of passage. The working class Vegas, the place where a family could load up the station wagon, drive across the country, and experience the dream without needing a second mortgage. The Adventure Dome with that pink indoor roller coaster. The Carnival Midway where you could win a stuffed animal bigger than your little sister. The circus acts that made you believe Las Vegas was built for wonder. For millions of Americans, especially those of you who grew up in the 70s and 80s, Circus Circus was the gateway. Your first taste of Vegas. Your first casino memory. The reason you came back as an adult, chasing that feeling of childhood amazement. It was honest. It was fun. It was democratic. You didn't need to be rich. You didn't need to be a high roller. You just needed to show up. Circus Circus said, "This city is for everyone." That message meant something. Then Phil Ruffin bought it, and everything changed. I'm going to tell you exactly what this billionaire is doing to the property you grew up loving, and I promise you, by the end, you're going to be as angry as I am. Phil Ruffin is worth over $1 billion. He owns the Treasure Island. He's a friend of former presidents. He knows exactly how to squeeze value from a distressed asset. His strategy at Circus Circus is elegant in its brutality. Spend nothing, harvest everything. The maintenance budget? Slashed to the absolute bone. If it's not legally required, it doesn't get fixed. Staffing levels? Skeleton crew. Minimum wage workers stretched across maximum responsibilities. Security? A liability waiting to explode because security costs money, and money cuts into the harvest. I've read hundreds of reviews, recent ones, from this year. Let me tell you what guests are describing, because it's not neglect, it's a biohazard. Mold. Visible mold in the rooms, growing on walls, spreading across bathroom ceilings, the kind of mold that triggers asthma attacks and makes children sick. Water leaks fixed with buckets on the floor, not repaired, not patched, buckets, catching drips. In a hotel room you paid money to sleep in, the stench of marijuana and mildew saturating the hallways. That smell that hits you the moment the elevator doors open and doesn't leave your clothes for days. Carpets that haven't been deep cleaned since the Obama administration. Stains that tell stories you don't want to hear. This is the place we used to bring our children. But the mold isn't even the scariest part. Throughout 2024 and into 2025, reports of security failures have piled up like evidence at a trial. Thefts from rooms, cars broken into in the parking garage, fights breaking out on the casino floor with no security in sight. A general sense of lawlessness after dark, that feeling in your gut that tells you something is wrong, that you shouldn't be here, that nobody is watching. When you cut corners on security staffing to save $12 an hour, you're not just cutting costs. You're gambling with your guests' safety. You're telling families that their well-being is worth less than your profit margin. And Phil Ruffin knows exactly what he's doing. He didn't buy Circus Circus to restore it. He didn't buy it to honor its legacy. He didn't buy it because he cared about the families who made memories there. He bought it to run it into the ground while extracting every possible dollar. He's betting that the land value will eventually justify demolition, that someday, some developer will pay him a fortune for that dirt on the North Strip. Until then, let it rot. Let the reviews crater. Let the health department circle. It doesn't matter. Because he's not in the hotel business. He's in the waiting business. Waiting to sell your childhood memories to the highest bidder. 5 casinos, 5 death sentences. The Strat held hostage for a land deal. Sahara drowning in the debt of its own resurrection. Rio strangled by predatory financing and broken trust. Excalibur milked dry by a corporation that sees families as revenue streams. And Circus Circus actively destroyed by a billionaire who calculated that rot is more profitable than repair. These aren't market failures. These aren't accidents of economics. These are choices. Choices made by owners who see you as a resource to be extracted, who see these buildings as obstacles sitting on valuable dirt, who see your memories as a line item to be written off. The Las Vegas that welcomed the working class is being murdered. Methodically, profitably, right in front of our eyes. The city that used to roll out the red carpet for families who saved all year for one vacation, that city is being replaced. Replaced by a Vegas that exists for private equity returns, for quarterly earnings calls, for billionaires calculating land appreciation while the buildings above crumble. They don't want you to notice. They want you to book the cheap room, pay the resort fee, and leave quietly. Don't leave quietly. The next time you visit Las Vegas, walk through these 5 casinos. Not as a tourist, as a witness. Smell the air, feel the carpets. Look at what they've let happen to the places that used to mean something. And then ask yourself, is this the Vegas you want to exist? Is this what we're willing to accept? Hit subscribe if you want to keep seeing the truth behind the neon, because I'm not done, not even close. Drop a comment and tell me which of these 5 casinos holds your memories. Which one hurts the most? Which one are you most angry about? Because in this new Las Vegas, your stories might be the only thing they can't bulldoze. Your memories might be the only history that survives. Share them before the wrecking ball decides it's time.